सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Om Tat Sat. So we are going to be on the third mantra today. So let us chant that. Na karmana na prajaya dhanena
न कर्मणा प्रजया
yage naike amritatvamanashu
याज्ञे अमृतत्वानशु
parena nakam nihitam guhayam vibhrajate yat yatayo vishanti
विभ्राजते विशन्ति.
Okay. So we saw the word meanings in the last class. I'm not going through that again. And we said that this is basically the Sahakari Sadhanam, the supportive means which are being referred to over here. So in this verse, Sadhana Chatushtayam is being presented. Of course, the Lord Brahmaji, who is giving the teaching, does not mention all the four qualifications, but he is focusing on Vairagyam, freedom from psychological weaknesses. And here he uses the word Tyagaha for Vairagyam. So Tyagaha can also mean Sannyasa. And in fact, another name that Shastram often uses for Sannyasa is Vairagyam. Vairagyam is Sannyasam, literally meaning renunciation or giving up. And we have seen that in Sannyasa there are two types of sannyasa basically. One is the Vividhisha sannyasa and one is the Vidvat sannyasa. So Vividhisha sannyasa is when a person is studying the scriptures and he does not want to be disturbed and he wants to focus entirely on the studies of the scriptures. Therefore, he takes a sannyasa which is called Vividhisha sannyasa. This is formal sannyasa where he dons the saffron robes. And his entire work after that, his entire life after that is dedicated to the study of the scripture alone. So he's a student. He's not a jnani. And then there is another type of sannyasa which is called Vidvat sannyasa. As the term Vidvat means because of jnanam. So he's already a jnani. And now this sannyasi, this person takes sannyasa because he wants to focus on the last part of sannyasa, which is the last part of jnanam, which is nididhyasanam. He does not want to be disturbed in his nididhyasanam. He wants to have exclusive time for nididhyasanam, and therefore he takes sannyasa. So there are two different types. One is taking for the purpose of acquiring jnanam. One is taking for the purpose of jnana nishtha. He has already acquired jnanam. So out of jnanam, he takes. The other person takes for jnana. So one is external sannyasa. There are two divisions. One is external sannyasa. You can actually become an ashrami sannyasi, the fourth ashrama sannyasa. Become a monk. There is a physical renunciation of the world and relationships. You wear the saffron robe. All that is there. That is one form of sannyasa. That is called bahya sannyasa, external sannyasa. So it's a formal sannyasa in which you go through the ritual and all that. Then there is antara sannyasa, which is internal renunciation. You prepare your mind so that you may really not have renounced anything, but you prepare your mind so that the renunciation of all that you have at any time in your life, that will not be a problem. This mental preparedness to lose everything that I have, that is antara sannyasa. The antara sannyasi need not be a formally, formal sannyasa. He need not have formally taken external sannyasa. But the main quality is he should be prepared to lose everything. Of course, he could also have formally taken sannyasa. It is not that the internal sannyasi cannot be external sannyasi. He can, but it is not mandatory. And between the two, the internal sannyas is more necessary than the external sannyas. You don't actually need to do anything. You don't actually need to lose anything. The main thing is you should be prepared to lose everything. So the mantra doesn't say how one should go about doing this. But we have to recall from the earlier teachings of Bhagavad Gita and other Upanishads that the main method is Vivekaha. So there are two methods again. One is the Jnanam method, one is the Dharma Shastra method. The Jnanam method is the Nitya, Anitya, Vastu, Vivekaha. Studying the scriptures, understanding that what is the difference between Nitya Vastu and Anitya Vastu. And from there progressing. That is the Jnanam method. Dharma Shastra method is different. That is taken as a beginner's method. So you take it that nothing which I have is really mine because everything has been given to me by Ishvara for my use. And that whatever I think I possess, objects, relationships, spouse, children, parents, they are all temporary gifts from Ishvara for my use. And why has Ishvara given me these gifts? So that I can grow internally. So all my relationships basically belong to Ishvara only. And the thinking is, let me use, let me grow. And then when I don't need them anymore, let me return all these possessions, relationships, everything, let me return with thanks to Ishvara. So this is surrendering possessions to Ishvara. And this is how I reduce my mamakara and ahankara. I and mine, I have to reduce. This is internal renunciation. And this internal renunciation is the contributory cause for jnanam. Wherever there is raga, dvesha, remember, jnanam cannot function. Jnanam and vairagyam are compulsory for moksha. Jnanam functions best in the presence of dispassion, in the presence of renunciation, in the presence of vairagyam. And that is why Shastra always talks about sannyasa. At least Shankaracharya always talks about sannyasa. Because once all relationships are gone, then jnanam is free to act on your mind and refine it. And here Brahmaji is saying that there is no other method. You can try other methods, but they will fail. So he says, na karmana, na anushuhu. Let me just... I would request you all not to unmute yourself because it disturbs the recording. So, na karmana, na anushuhu. Anushuhu means to attain. So, you have to add here, na karmana, moksha, na anushuhu. Through karma, moksha cannot be achieved, cannot be obtained. What is the logic? We know that karma cannot produce jnanam. And we know that only jnanam can produce moksha, and therefore karma cannot produce moksha. What is moksha? Moksha is freedom from mortality, freedom from finitude. And all karma has a beginning and has an end. Therefore, every karma is finite. Therefore, any amount of karma is finite plus finite only. Any finite karma can produce only a finite result, and moksha is an infinite result. So, finite plus finite can never equal infinite. Therefore, karma cannot produce moksha. Remember that every karma is bounded on two sides by time, the beginning and the end. And because of that, the karma phalam, the result of karma, has also a bounding of time on both sides. Everything is finite only. Anything in time has a beginning and an end, and therefore it is finite. So in Mundaka also, we studied this particular aspect in great detail. Second chapter, the first section. And therefore karma is useful for moksha. It gives chitta shuddhi, but it can never directly produce moksha. And so he says, na karmana moksha anushuhu. Karma cannot produce moksha. Na prajaya also. Prajaya is children. Children also cannot give moksha. So Shankara comments here saying that children can definitely help in other ways. So for example, if the father has a lot of debt, the child, when he grows up, may help out by clearing of that debt. But if the father is hungry, the children can bring him food, but they cannot eat for him. Similarly, nobody can help you get moksha. You have to work for your own moksha. Nobody can get moksha for you. So, na prajaya. Through children, normally people rely upon children for a lot of things. They will help me in my old age. They will look after me. They will take care of me. They will support me. But Shankara says all that is fine from the Vyavaharika point of view. But moksha is Paramarthika. Nobody can help you there. Only you need to work for your own moksha. And he says, na dhanena, nor through money. Moksha cannot be obtained through money. Why? Because money is also finite. And moksha is an infinite end. And therefore, a finite means can never give you an infinite end. Then he says, tyagena eke. So that word has to be broken carefully. Tyagena eke amritatvam anashuhu. Tyagena, only through vairagyam, only through renunciation. Eke, some people, literally eke means one, but some people have attained moksha using tyaga. What is tyaga here? Renunciation. This is again not sakshat sadhana. Tyagam, vairagyam is not the direct means. It is the indirect means. It prepares one for jnanam by giving you chitta shuddhi. It prepares you by dropping all your props, emotional props. It helps you in dropping. It helps you in getting rid of all your emotional attachments. And therefore, you become independent. That independence is very necessary for getting moksha. So, AK, some people, tyagena, having attained sufficient vairagyam, have got moksha. And we must remember here that vairagyam should go along with jnanam. Vairagyam by itself will prepare you, will give you chitta shuddhi, but it will not give you moksha. Therefore, vairagyam has to be accompanied by shravanam, mananam, and nididhyasanam. And then he gives the phalam, the fruits. So he says, yat yatayo vishanti. That is the last two words of the mantra. Yat yatayo vishanti. So yatihi means sannyasi. And in this context, it means any person who has got the internal renunciation. He can have external renunciation also. Bahya sannyas he could have taken, but antara sannyas is compulsory. And for such a seeker, yat vishanti. So yat tayo vishanti. Vishanti yat. They merge into that. That is Brahman. So a person who has got vairagyam, who has got jnanam, who makes the necessary effort, yat vishanti, that person merges into Brahman. And he uses the word parena nakam. So nakaha is an interesting derivation. The word kam, K-A-M in English, K-A-M, not really C-O-M-E, but the translation kam, K-A-M, it means happiness or pleasure. And when you add the word, prefix it by it becomes akam. So akam means that which is not pleasure, which means pain. Okay, this is a derivation. I'm giving it because it is interesting. Kam means pleasure. Akam means not pleasure, so pain. And nakam is na akam, meaning that pleasure which has no pain. See, akam, kam, akam, nakam. That pleasure which has no pain. And so he is referring to what? He is referring to Swarga, because in Swarga, in heaven, it is said that unlike on earth, where everything is mixed with pain, in Swarga, pleasure is pure pleasure. There is no pain at all. So he says, Parena Nakam, which is Parena is even superior to. So that they merge into that Brahman, which is even superior to Swarga. So Nakam essentially can be taken as Swarga, heaven, and Parena means beyond that, superior to. So Parena Nakam, which is superior to even Swarga. That is the Brahman he's talking about. And where is the Brahman? Nihitam Guhaya. So Guha means the cave of the heart. Hridaya Guha. We have seen this earlier in Mundaka also. And Nihitam, he is resident there. This Brahman is found there. In what form? In the form of Sakshi Chaitanyam, the witness consciousness. Why is the heart called Guha, a cave? Because the mind is dark with ignorance. So remember that heart is the Golakam. The mind is supposed to reside in the heart when it is not being used, or the residence of the mind is supposed to be the heart, which is the Golakam. And where there is ignorance, this mind is dark with ignorance, and that's why Guha. Cave is usually dark, and therefore in this dark, ignorant mind, Brahman is there. You can't say Brahman is hidden, because Brahman is self-evident, but one has to recognize that Brahman. And how is that Brahman located? He says, Vibhrajate. Vibhrajate means Swayam Prakashaha, self-effulgent. So this Brahman, which is located in the heart, is always evident as Swayam Prakasha Rupena Chaitanyam, self-evident consciousness. The very fact that I am able to think, the very fact that I am able to see, the very fact that I am alive, that is the evidence of that self-effulgent Brahman. And therefore the phalam of this jnanam, the result of this jnanam is what? Brahma Aikyam. My oneness with that Brahman, which is moksha. And so Lord Brahmaji is teaching that this is the direct and supportive means of knowledge. There is a supportive means which is Chitta Shuddhi. There is direct means which is knowledge. And therefore Brahmaji is going to teach what? Both direct and supportive means. Both Sakshat Sadhanam as well as the supportive Sadhanam he is going to teach. And now Brahmaji is going to point out that the process of Jnanam, which is what? Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam, is not a capsule program, is not a short-term program, but it requires sustained and continuous study. A lot of effort is required, which he will say in the next mantra, which we will read. This is mantra number 4. So we will chant that. Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchitarthaha Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchitarthaha Sannyasa Yogat Yataya Shuddha Sattvaha Sannyasa Yogat Yataya Shuddha Sattvaha Te Brahma Lokeshu Paranta Kale Paramritav Parimuchyanti Sarve. Okay. Now look at the words. First look at the third compound word of the first line. Sannyasa Yogat. And you have to break that Yatayaha. Sannyasa Yogat Yatahaya. So Yatahaya is the Yati, the Sannyasi. Sannyasa Yogat, through renunciation. So Sannyasam Yoga is taken as renunciation. Sannyasa is renunciation. And Sannyasa Yogat means through the yoga of Sannyasa, through renunciation. Yatayaha. And what kind of Yataha, what kind of Sannyasis are these? Shuddha Sattvaha. They are pure-minded Sannyasis. What have they done? Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchita Arthaha. They have, through Vedanta, so here you have to look at the word Arthaha. Arthaha is the object. And object of what? Vedanta Vijnana. So the object of Vedantic knowledge. And Sunishchitam means well ascertained, having correctly ascertained. So this compound word Vedanta Vijnana Sunishtarthaha means they have, this is actually a name given to sannyasis because of the visarga at the end. This word is a name given to a sannyasi, which means that he has understood Brahman, which is the object, which is the well ascertained object of Vedanta Vijnana. So a person who has attained or understood Brahman after having studied Vedantam is called a Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchitarthaha. And therefore what? Paramritaha. He has become one with infinite Brahman. So this is Jivan Mukti. Te sarve, all of them, parimuchyante, are completely absorbed by or completely resolved into Brahma Lokeshu, into Brahman, when Paranta Kale, at the time of final death. So let us see what this mantra means actually. So Brahmaji is talking about the various stages that I have to go through in my spiritual journey. And this mantra is, all this is presented in this mantra. And because it is presenting the entire spiritual journey, there is a tradition in India. I don't know if it's still followed, but it was a tradition that whenever a sannyasi visits a householder, a grahastha, this mantra is chanted. So in fact, not only this mantra, the third mantra, mantra number 3 and mantra number 4, both the mantras are generally chanted while welcoming a sannyasi who is visiting a grahastha. So grahastha chants this mantra. And this mantra we have already seen. This is not the first time that we are hearing this mantra, is it? Is it the first time we are hearing this mantra?
Mundaka Upanishad.
Mundaka Upanishad. I hope you have not forgotten. It is the same mantra. So let us look at this mantra and we'll rearrange some of the things, some of the words. So first is Yatayaha, literally meaning sannyasi. And the root of that word is the dhatu yat, which means one who puts in an effort, which means to put in effort. So yat root is put in effort. And from that word yat only, you have words like prayatna and similar things. Anything indicating an effort is coming from the root of this word. Dhatu is yat, which means to put in effort. And therefore, yatayaha means a sannyasi, but in this context, it means a person who has put efforts in the right direction. Thus, correct effort, right effort is important, which means that whatever sadhana I am doing, I should not do it blindly. I should not do it because somebody told me that this is the correct sadhana. I must know what is the relevance of that sadhana for me at the particular time, right? And this we saw in Bhagavad Gita in a very potent line. What was that? One must know what exactly one must do at what time in your spiritual path. Krishna used a very potent line when he talked about this. Remember? Anybody? Very, very important line. You must always remember. Vyavasayatmika buddhihi eke kurunandana. You should have a clearly ascertained idea. You should be very clear about the role of whatever karma you are doing. And that clarity comes when I know that my ultimate goal is moksha, my ultimate goal I know, and therefore I know what are the steps required to achieve moksha, which requires what? Jnana. Nididhyasanam, if you want to put it backwards, your moksha, your jnana nishtha requires nididhyasanam. To get nididhyasanam, you work backwards. You need, what do you need to get nididhyasanam? To be successful in nididhyasanam, what should you have?
Mananam, Shravanam and Mananam.
Shravanam and Mananam, but
Focused mind.
if you want to put it that way, Mananam means you should have knowledge free of doubts. For nididhyasanam to be successful, you must have knowledge free of doubts, which means your Mananam must have taken place. To have knowledge free of doubts, you must have knowledge in the first place, which means Shravanam must have taken place. To have Shravanam, you need Chitta Shuddhi, which means Upasana must have taken place and Karma Yoga must have taken place. So this Vyavasayatmika Buddhi is basically Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. One should know this is the path. And why do some people have a confusion? If you have learnt the Shastram in the traditional manner, in the structured manner from a traditional teacher, this clarity will be very, very much there. But if you don't have the clarity, then there is a problem. You don't know what I am doing and why I am doing it. Right? So this is what he is saying over here. Yatayaha. He must know what he is doing and at what time he must do it and what is the benefit of what he is doing. So the first stage is Karma Yoga, proper effort. And this Karma Yoga will lead to what he says in the last word of the first line, Shuddha Sattvaha, a purified mind. Purification of mind is what? Nothing but dilution of Ragadvesha. Which means that my lifestyle should not be dictated by my Ragadvesha, but my lifestyle should be based on Dharma, what is right and what is wrong. Even if that goes against my Ragadvesha, let it go against the Ragadvesha, but I should be proceeding in my activity, in all my karma, based on Dharma alone. Dharma, Adharma, what is that? I must know. And once I know that, then even if I have Ragadvesha, it doesn't matter because I'm ignoring the Ragadvesha and I'm doing what Dharma dictates. Such a person is a Samskrita Purusha, refined person. It also involves recognition of Nitya, Anitya, Vastu. The difference between Nitya, Anitya, Vastu, he must understand, which means he has Viveka. Then, the second milestone is Sannyasa Yoga. So, once my mind is being sufficiently matured because of Karma Yoga, what happens? The purpose of an active Karma Yoga lifestyle has been served. And therefore, I now need to spend more time on Shravanam and Mananam and Nididhyasanam rather than Karma Yoga. And therefore, I reduce my activity, which was earlier aimed at giving me Chitta Shuddhi. This reduction of activity, giving up as far as possible activity which is unnecessary, this is called Sannyasa Yoga, going into withdrawal mode. So we call it Nivritti Marga. Once a person reduces his karma activity and withdraws himself, comes away from pravritti towards nivritti, he is getting ready for Vedantic Jnana. Out of the 4 ashramas, if you see, the first 2 ashramas are focused outwards. So they are all meant for pravritti activity. The next 2 ashramas, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa, they are meant for withdrawal, coming inwards, Nivritti ashrama. So Sannyasa Yoga, I have completed my Karma Yoga, I have completed my activity of the first 2 ashrams, Brahmacharya as well as Grahastha. Now I am withdrawing into Vanaprastha. This is Sannyasa Yoga. Having withdrawn into Vanaprastha, what do? He says, Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchit Arthaha. Having withdrawn, one has to come to Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. So Vedanta Vijnana means Vedanta Shastra. Any scripture that deals with Atma Jnanam is Vedanta Shastra. It can be Gita also, but it has to deal with Atma Swarupam, the nature of the Atma, or Brahma Swarupam, the nature of Brahman. So here in this compound word, the last bit, Artha. Artha means Tatparyam, the central theme, the crux of the teaching, the main teaching. Therefore, Vedanta Vijnana Artha means the Tatparyam of Vedanta Shastram. What is the central teaching of Vedanta Shastram? And which is what? I am Brahman. If you look at all the Shastrams that we have done so far, if you look at all the Prakarana Granthas that we have done so far, if you want to extract in one word, what would you say? It's only Aham Brahma Asmi. And since I am Brahman, I was free, I am free, I will ever be free. There is no question of my being in bondage at all, because I am Brahman, right? What can bind me? And therefore here, this Sunishchit Artha, the conviction, Sunishchitam, the Nishchitam is conviction, Sunishchitam is really convinced, absolutely convinced. What? That what I want to become nothing. Because whatever I wanted to become, I have discovered that I already am. And therefore, central theme of Vedanta is this. What is that? I am Jnana-nishtha. I am Brahman. I have been free and I will be free. There is no way that I can be any bondage. So this Jnana-nishtha comes through Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. The net result is Jiva Atma Aikyam, or Jiva Paramatma Aikyam. The oneness between the Jivatma and the Paramatma is clear to me. This is the very pinnacle, the culmination of all my spiritual sadhana. And because of that, what happens? Paramritaha. Paramritaha is, he has merged with Brahman. So he is Jnana-nishtha. He has understood. When you say become Brahman, there is no becoming in this. He has understood that he is Brahman. He has always been Brahman. And therefore, everything else becomes mithya. The moment that your Brahmatvam, your nature as Brahman becomes clear to you, doubtlessly clear to you. That is why Sunishchit Artha, doubtlessly clear it must become. Then, if I am Brahman, I am the only Satyam, right? Tattvabodha, it is said, I am the only Satyam. Once you are the only Satyam, what is the implication? Everything else is mithya. And therefore, you are on two different levels of reality. Brahman is Paramarthika, and the entire Jagat becomes Vyavaharika, a lower level of reality. A lower level of reality can never affect the higher level of reality. Just like your dream tiger can scare you in the dream, but once you have woken up, the dream tiger becomes a game for you. It becomes a leela for you. Similarly, for the Jnana-nishtha who is looking at the world from the Brahman point of view, I am Brahman. For him, the entire world becomes a game. Life becomes a leela. There is never any more sorrow. So this is the main benefit. And then, te sarvehe parimuchyanti brahma lokeshu paranta kale. So the word is paranta kale. Why paranta kale? Paranta kale means final depth. Why final? The word antakale is used for ajnani. Why? Because it is not a final antaha. It's not a final end. Why? Because he will be reborn again. But for a jnani, the prefix para antaha indicates that cycle of rebirth has ended. And therefore, what is being indicated here is Videha Mukti. That person who has got Jivan Mukti, who has become one with Brahman, understood that he is no other than Brahman. For him, there is no more birth. His body will continue as far as the prarabdha is there, the body will continue. Once that body falls, it is Videha Mukti. Again, here one must carefully understand that the terms we use here Jivan Mukti, Videha Mukti, they are purely from the Ajnani's point of view. From the Jnani's point of view, where is the question of any Mukti at all? There is neither Jivan Mukti, nor is there Videha Mukti. Because Jnani is Brahman. Everything, all the bodies, both the terms, Mukti itself indicates that there is bondage, right? For the Jnani, there never was any bondage. So he was never a Jivatma. Where is the question of Jivan Mukti? And if there is no question of Jivan Mukti, where is the question of Videha Mukti? So whenever we use the terms Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti, remember it is for teaching purposes from the Vyavaharika point of view, from the Ajnani's point of view. It cannot be from the Jnani's point of view. From the Jnani's point of view, there are no words at all. And then Brahma Lokeshu Parimuchyanti Sarve. So here again, you have to carefully note that Brahma Loka here does not mean Lord Brahmaji's world. Okay. Brahma Loka means Chaitanyam. The word Loka here means Chaitanyam. So Brahma Loka has to be understood as Brahma Chaitanyam. So Brahma Lokeshu into Brahma Loka means Brahma Chaitanyeshu, into the consciousness principle which is Brahman. They merge. Who merges? Te sarvehe. All these jnanis, they will merge. Okay, any questions? A very beautiful little Upanishad, and most of the verses, they can be used for, they should be actually committed to memory and used for Nididhyasa.
Om Acharya.
Yes, June.
What's the chapter in the verse of the Gita that says that one should clearly know the path?
I will leave it to you for, some sort of Nididhyasa.
Can you repeat the mantra again so I copy the words?
Which one are you talking about? You're talking about this Vyavasayatmika Buddhi? Yeah, this Vyavasayatmika Buddhi aka Kurunandana. Okay. So it's there in the second chapter. If you want to narrow the whole thing, you should look for it and follow the commentary. It's a very important verse because it clearly states what you should do, what should be your priorities in life. Your priority in life should be moksha. You should be retaining only those activities which are supporting that search for moksha and drop any activity which goes against it. So if you want to come, that's why I said, I mentioned that in that comment that you made in the group, saying you want to come to Ganga, right? I said, Vyavasaya Atmika Buddhi.
Yes. Nanda Gopalji also commented on that. Yeah.
Take a flight from Tokyo to Delhi, take a train to Rishikesh. That is all the process. I must know what exactly is every step of the way. I must know. And what each step will do for me, that also I must know. That kind of understanding is called Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. Okay, now we look at verse number 5. Vivikta deshe cha sukhasanastha.
Vivikta deshe cha
sukhasanastha. Shuchi samagriva shirah shariraha.
Shuchi samagriva shariraha.
Atyashamastha sakalendriyani. Nirudhya bhaktya swagarum pranamya. Okay, now look at the words. Atya ashramastha. Okay, so that is the first word of the second line of the mantra. Atya ashramastha. You got to break it as Ati ashramastha. Ati is here taken as the highest. Ashrama is the state Ati ashrama sthaha. Sthaha means remaining. Remaining in what? Ati ashrama, in the highest state of highest ashrama. Which is the highest ashrama? Sannyasa. So, ati ashrama sthaha means remaining as a sannyasi, or at least as a mental sannyasi. These are instructions, okay, for nididhyasana. What should you do? Sukha asana sthaha. Again, break that up properly. This is Sukha asana sthaha. First line, which means comfortable posture, sthaha, seated in, remaining in. So, Sukha asanam sthaha. You have to be seated, you have to seat yourself in a comfortable posture. And Shuchihi, with purity. Vivikta deshe, in a secluded place. Sama, griva, shira, shariraha. For those who have done Bhagavad Gita, the meaning should be clear. Sama, griva, shira, shariraha. What is the meaning?
Keeping the body, neck, and head straight.
Griva is what? Is the neck. Shira is the head. Sharira is the body. Samaha means one straight line. So, Sama, Griva, Shira, Sharira means keeping the body, the neck, and the head in one straight line. What should you do? Nirudhya. One should restrain. What? Sakala Indriyani. Sakala means all. All the sense organs, Indriyani, one should restrain. And Swagurum Pranamya. Swagurum means your own Guru. Pranamya. Give your pranam to your own Guru. How? Bhaktya. With devotion. Okay. So this is now Lord Brahmaji is beginning to talk about the process of Nididhyasanam, the process of Dhyanam. Here, of course, Brahmaji doesn't talk about Karma Yoga. The Shruti doesn't talk about Karma Yoga because it presumes that if you are in Upanishads, you have already been through the Prakarana Granthas, through Tattva Bodha and through Bhagavad Gita, and therefore you are familiar with the fact that before coming to Jnanam, you must have Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga under your belt, which means basically it assumes that you are an Adhikari. Chitta Shuddhi is there, right? And if your mind has not been purified, then what should you do? You have to restart Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga and get Chitta Shuddhi. Okay. So one peculiar thing here is, normally in teaching, you will find that, for example, look at the Bhagavad Gita. You have Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, all these things discussed in chapter 2, 3, 4, 5. And then chapter 6 discusses Nididhyasana. But here, what is happening? Brahmaji introduces the subject through discussing Nididhyasanam or Dhyanam, meditation. And we must remember that there are two types of meditation. Upasana is one meditation. Upasana means meditation, but the purpose is that you are trying to steady your mind. You, in Vedantic terms, you are trying to address what? Upasana?
Vikshepa.
Vikshepa. You are trying to address Vikshepa. That is Upasana. Okay. Meditation before coming to Jnana. And Upasana is part of the process of giving you Chitta Shuddhi, because Karma Yoga addresses the negative thinking patterns, which is Mala, it is called. And Upasana addresses the other impurity, which is called Vikshepa. So your Mala is one impurity, Vikshepa is the second impurity, and the third impurity is what? Ajnanam is third impurity. So that these three impurities are addressed through this particular sadhana. So Karma Yoga addresses Mala, negative thinking patterns, negative thoughts. Upasana Yoga addresses Vikshepa, unsteady tendency of the mind. And Jnanam addresses Ajnanam. Okay, this is the process. Then post Shravanam, what happens? Shravanam gives you Jnanam. But at the end of Shravanam, unless you have 100% Chitta Shuddhi, if you have 100% Chitta Shuddhi, you are a very advanced, yogi you are. You have managed to have almost complete control over the mind. Then you do not need Mananam and Nididhyasanam. Shravanam itself will give you liberation. But that doesn't happen. Most of us are far from 100% Chitta Shuddhi. Therefore, after Shravanam, you will find that you have the knowledge, but there are doubts. It is Samshaya Sahita Jnanam, knowledge accompanied by doubts. Doubts about this scripture says, Shastram says, I am Brahman. How can I be Brahman? I have so many problems in my life. I am subject to anger. I am subject to, desperation. I am subject to jealousy. How can I be Brahman? So these kind of doubts will be there. So that is Samshaya Sahita Jnanam, knowledge with doubts. And then you do Shravanam, and after that you do Mananam. Mananam is addressing the doubts, either by your own self, or by again doing Shravanam, or by discussion with your colleagues, or by raising the matter with your teacher. So Mananam can take place in any of these forms. Once you do that Mananam, sufficient number of times, with every Mananam, your Chitta Shuddhi also improves. Remember that. And therefore, sooner or later, the Aham Brahmasmi knowledge, which is with you, will be doubtless. You will not doubt the fact that you are Brahman. Even then, we find that we do not get the full benefit of that Jnanam. Why is that so? Because there are very many habitual thinking patterns, Viparita Bhavana. So those thinking patterns have to be addressed. And the meditation you do is based on the teaching itself. So for example, you find that you are feeling very humiliated because of something that somebody said. What is a meditation? I am Asangaha, or I am infinite. Where is the question of anybody humiliating me? So in Nididhyasanam, you take each of your, I won't say negative thinking patterns. These are preconceived patterns. These are patterns which have lasted in spite of doubtless knowledge being there. So the habitual thinking pattern, they are more of habit than out of conviction now. And therefore, you have to take each one of them and meditate upon the relative teaching. Whichever part of the teaching addresses that, you have to meditate upon that. For example, you might have this instinctive fear of death, right? What is the meditation going to be? That I was never born and I would never die. How is this possible for me to have this particular fear? So one by one, you take each of these problems of yours and take the relative teaching from the study, from the scriptures, and meditate upon it. One by one, we assimilate the teaching. As you assimilate, each of these habitual thinking pattern goes away. So this internalization of the scripture is post-Vedantic meditation, post-Jnanam meditation, with the purpose of addressing all your habitual patterns of thinking, getting rid of them. And sooner or later, that pure Vedantic fragrance should come out through every pore of your body. So here, and this is called Nididhyasana Dhyanam. So you have two types of Dhyanam, Upasana Dhyanam and Nididhyasana Dhyanam. Here, Brahmaji is discussing both types of Dhyanam. But the object of meditation, remember, whether it is Upasana Dhyanam or whether it is Nididhyasana Dhyanam, the object of meditation is only Brahman. The only thing is that our concept of this God, of the Ishvara, gets slowly refined. And we saw in Bhagavad Gita, there are 3 stages of this understanding. Ekarupa, the Lord with one form. Anekarupa, the Lord as the world itself. and Arupa Rupa, Arupa Ishvaraha, the Lord without form. Meditation upon Ekarupa Ishvara and Anekarupa Ishvara, Lord with one form and Lord with multiple forms, that falls under Upasana, pre-Vedantic meditation. Once Jnanam is there, doubtless Jnanam is there, you can't meditate upon Ekarupa, Anekarupa. Why? Because you know that you are not different from those two. And you know that those are only forms. And you know that forms are mithya. The Lord Krishna you were worshipping was a form. After Jnanam, you know that the form of Lord Krishna is mithya. What is the essence? Atma alone. Even if you are worshipping the world as the Lord, after Jnanam, you know that the world is only name and form. The essence is consciousness alone. And therefore, you graduate to the third stage, which is Nididhyasanam, where the meditation is upon Brahman, but upon formless Brahman as yourself. Right? And the thing is that you may be meditating upon Aneka Rupa Ishvara, but if you have not come to Vedantic inquiry, that is Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, you cannot progress beyond Aneka Rupa Ishvara. To make the jump from Aneka Rupa Ishvara to Arupa Ishvara, the formless Brahman, one necessarily should have gone through Vedantic inquiry. Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. Then only can you come to Nididhyasanam as Brahman, as myself. And therefore, depending upon which stage you are in, you have to choose which of this meditation is suitable to you. If you have completed, like most of you have completed Jnanam, as well as a substantial portion of Mananam, then for you the right meditation is not Ekarupa or Anekarupa. The right meditation is to come to Nididhyasana. One has to always choose what is suitable for me. Okay, so here in this verse, he is introducing some preparatory steps. So he says Deshaha. Deshaha means place, appropriate place, physically and spiritually clean. Okay, and Viviktaha. Viviktaha is relatively secluded. So a relatively secluded place. And Kalaha, he does not mention in the mantra. We have to supply appropriate time, which is what? Any time in which the mind is sattvika, which is not too much tamas is there, not too much rajas is there. That is the appropriate time for meditation. Then there is asana, the proper seat on which one is seated. Should be neither too high nor too low, neither too soft nor too hard. So you have desha, kala, asana, then sharira sthiti, condition of the body. In the condition of the body, what should be seen? The physical body and the sense organs. So that is the preparing the Annamaya Kosha. Then you come to the breathing, preparing the Pranamaya Kosha. Then you come to the thoughts in the mind, preparing the Manomaya Kosha. And in the same Upanishad, later you will find that it is said that during this period of meditation, may you become a temporary sannyasi. Why? Because the mind is always preoccupied by relationships, possessions, or duties. So when you go in to meditate, into the meditation room, you have to temporarily declare yourself as a sannyasi. I am not a father, I am not a mother, I am not a husband, I am not a wife. I am just the sadhaka. The sense organs have to be withdrawn from the external world so that the mind is not disturbed by the world. In short, the mind should have become a sannyasi's mind or sannyasi mind. And a sannyasi mind does have relationships, but only three: Guru, Shastra, Ishvara. With these three relationships, Guru, Shastra, Ishvara, one should enter the meditation room at the threshold of the room, along with your chappals, you can place all your other relationships outside. You surrender them to Ishvara and tell Ishvara that until I come back from a meditation, please look after my relationships. That mind is called a detached mind, asanga manaha. That mind is a mind which is asanga. So that is our manomaya kosha. Then if you come to intellect, which is vijnanamaya kosha. So the intellect must be convinced thoroughly about the utility of my meditation, of the time which I am going to spend on a daily basis for Nididhyasanam, that there is going to be some utility for that time and that effort. My intellect should be convinced. How do I convince? I temporarily forget all aparavidya, all the material knowledge, scientific knowledge which I have, I forget. And I bring in the script, the Shastra teaching only at the time of meditation. During this meditation period, no other thought must be there excepting the teaching of the Shastra. And for advanced students, like all of y'all, the meditation is very simple. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Aham Brahma Eva Na Paraha. That is all. Each one of those words you have to meditate upon. In short, you have to move from triangular format to binary format. And this is Nididhyasana. These three are discussed. All these, what I've talked about in brief, are discussed in these three verses. Verse 5, verse 6, and verse 7. Okay. So let us try to finish this one verse today, if you all don't mind. So look at the verse now. Vivikta deshe cha. So a secluded place. Vivikta desha. Secluded place. A relatively quiet place. And as I said, Kala is not mentioned here, but we bring it forward because Krishna mentions it in the Bhagavad Gita. Then Shuchihi should be a clean place. The meditator must be clean. The place must also be clean. Then therefore we insist upon a bath before coming into the meditation room. Not only the body, the mind should also be clean, free of raga, dvesha, kama, krodha, lobha, mada, matsarya. All these negative tendencies, negative thinking patterns I should not have. And that is why again and again Shankara says, become a sannyasi. Why? Because most of the disturbances in our minds are caused by what? By human relationships. A relationship is very sensitive, very subtle, and that is why difficult to handle. We are always worried about the people whom we are attached to. And therefore, our minds are always disturbed. We also have people whom we don't like. So towards them we have bitterness, hatred, anger, etc. And therefore here, Upanishad says that while you may not be a sannyasi, and therefore you may be having some relationships, at least in the meditation room, drop all those relationships so that they don't disturb you while you are doing Nididhyasana. And then he says, Sukha asana stha. Sit in a very comfortable posture. Okay, make sure you can come out of it. So if you can't get into can't get out of Padmasanam, don't try to get into it. Just sit in a very comfortable posture where you can spend some time without too much of body pain. And then Sama Griva Shira Shariraha. Your head, your neck and your body should be in one straight line. Sakala Indriyani Nirudhya, withdrawing all the Indriyas. So withdrawal of the eyes alone, we say as though looking at. The eyes are directed at the nose, but not the mind. So if you remember Bhagavad Gita, he says, the eyes should be directed towards the nose, in the direction of the nose. But that is only the eyes. You are not really looking, because when you are really looking, the mind is behind the eyes. But in this case, the eyes are as though directed at the nose, but the mind is directed towards the object of meditation, which is Brahman. Then breathing should be smooth. We saw in Gita, prana, pano, samakritva, nasa, bhantara, charino. The breathing should be normal. What about the mental condition? So he says, atyashramasthaha, become a sannyasi. And here, one discipline Krishna doesn't mention in the Gita, but Lord Brahmaji mentions here. The last three words, bhaktya, swagurum, pranamya. Invoke your guru with devotion. Do namaskara to your guru. And why is it important? Because whenever you invoke your guru, what will come to your mind? What he has taught you. Your relationship with the guru is simply the teaching. The bond between you and your guru is shastram only. And therefore, whenever you invoke your teacher, you will be reminded of the teaching. In any other association, remember, your wife, your children, your parents, lots of other things will be invoked. But as far as your guru is concerned, as far as the teacher is concerned, acharya is concerned, whenever you remember him, only the teaching will be invoked. And that's why bhaktya swagurum pranamya. Invoke the teaching and then start your meditation. With this, we'll stop for today. Any questions?
Acharya.
Yes, Padana.
It's not directly related to this verse, but if no one else has questions, it's been stuck with me for a while.
Go ahead.
So we know that avidya is removed through vritti jnanam in Jagrat Avastha.
Yes.
So I was trying to figure out what happens then once a jnani goes into, like, so avidya is removed. What happens when you go back to swapna avastha? Because swapna avastha is a place where your karma gets exhausted, right? It can also give you sukha dukkha.
Yes. But just because you have got jnanam doesn't mean that you don't exhaust your prarabdha.
Mm-hmm.
In waking state also, the jnani will definitely have painful situations also and pleasurable situations also, exhausting prarabdha. That same thing carries on in swapna avastha also.
But a jivan mukta in Jagrat avastha no longer suffers.
That's not really correct. He doesn't own up the suffering. If his body is going through pain, physical pain is definitely there. But he doesn't own up the body as himself. If somebody abuses him, mental reaction may be there, but he doesn't own up the mind as himself. That's the difference. It's easy to say that. But to literally separate yourself from the body and the mind, that is moksha. Viewing the whole thing as a movie screen. When the actor on the stage gets, shot, you can choose to cry. We can choose to cry and be aware that it is only a movie.
Right.
So this is the fruit of sustained nididhyasana.
Okay. But habitual thinking patterns will continue in swapna avastha even after successful nididhyasana.
Swapna avastha, we say, basically comes out of the experiences of your Jagrata avastha. Therefore, those experiences will continue. But just as today, when you wake up, you don't own up the pain of your, the insult which you were given in Swapna avastha, you don't own up, right? When you wake up, you say, that was not me. Same thing you will do in Jagrata avastha, you won't own it up. Because you are on a Paramarthika Satyam level. You are on a higher level. Then why don't you own up the pain of Swapna avastha? Because Swapna avastha is Pratibhasika and you are in Vyavaharika. The two levels are different. The higher level is not affected by the lower level. When you transpose that, Vyavaharika to Paramarthika, it is the same logic. At Paramarthika level, you don't own up the pain of the Vyavaharika level. Just as at Vyavaharika level, you don't own up the pain of the Paramartha, or the Pratibhasika level.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so with this, we'll close the day. Thank you for your patience. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya.